simplicity. It's often used to describe a weak game or a game that lacks depth. Hollow Knight proves that simplicity is something that games should be striving for. It's the art of refining something by cutting out the unnecessary, to focus on the purest form of that system, whether it be combat, story, music, tone, etc. Very often, developing a simple system that elevates a gaming experience is the hardest thing you could do as a developer. In those simple games, each system has to be perfected because often the game is leaning on a few mechanics. There's nothing to hide behind. Hollow Knight is one of those games that demonstrates this rare achievement. Beginning a new game in Hollow Knight awards you only a handful of options: a simple weapon that attacks in 4 directions, a jump button, and a potion that refills based off a resource called Soul. 3 tools and that's it. It doesn't get any more simple than that. However, there is such subtlety in each mechanic. Let's start with the sword. The sword can be used while in air in any direction and must not be spammed versus just about any enemy. Enemies in Hollow Knight have erratic and kind of sudden burst of speed brought on by their different movesets. And given the zero input lag of Hollow Knight and a lack of invincibility frame with basic attacks, each strike must be timed appropriately in order to not take damage. The fluidity awarded by such a simple one-button attack system makes you feel in control and responsible for the use of that attack button, especially considering the lack of any guard or shield ability in Hollow Knight. The jump button is another simple tool, yet with a small adjustment, its impact is so elegant. The longer you hold down the jump button, the higher you will jump. It seems like nothing special on paper, but this simple mechanic allows you to not only adjust your trajectory while in the air, but also your acceleration. In the original Mario, players could make adjustments while in the air, but they couldn't control distance because the jump button was completely binary. Adding a pressure mechanic allows Hollow Knight to utilize more interesting enemy movements and make them more unpredictable. It knows it can challenge you. Hollow Knight knows when you get to this boss, many players will learn that they can dodge this attack by manipulating the pressure they express on the jump button in midair. A simple tool that allows for more interesting and unique gameplay in Hollow Knight. Now, the potion system in Hollow Knight is equally brilliant and simple in design. Once again, one small tweak to the formula that makes all the difference. In typical Metroidvania games, when you use a potion, it's instant, whether that dose refills health instantly or over time. But in Hollow Knight, potions require you to hold down the button for a brief moment before it takes effect. 2 things happen as a result. The first being that this system simply makes healing more strategic and nerve-wracking because there's a window of exposure that players have to manage. And secondly, it encourages precision. There's a small delay between the time you begin to hold down the potion button and when it actually charges. There's also a similar delay after being struck by an enemy attack, when you land after a jump, or when you're stunned, all situations when you're probably racing to use a potion. Players cannot spam the inputs on their controller for fear of overlapping these 2 delay windows because the potion charge may not start if registered too early. It's a very tiny subtlety that awards, once again, proper use of timing when scrambling to heal. While many players may find and exploit safe moments during encounters to counter this limitation, those windows become smaller and smaller as the game goes on. Progression is also an area where Hollow Knight truly makes the best use of simplicity. In a world where many developers feel that they must front-load most of their content for fear of losing our interest, Hollow Knight exercises the breadcrumb approach, feeding abilities and tools over the course of the long haul. Once again, the simplest techniques, yet perfect for a game that is a maze. This kind of progression system allows Team Cherry to create inaccessible zones in the areas that players will be traversing the most. Nothing is worse than playing through a Metroidvania game, dying and having to slug through the starting area again and again and again simply to get back to where you need to be. It's a problem this genre has, however in Hollow Knight every area has secrets that you need to come back for once you've unlocked the appropriate tools, which helps combat that sensation of backtracking that we all hate. But another simple twist also has been implemented into Hollow Knight to break up that sensitivity of backtracking. After completing one of the major objectives of the game or acquiring one of the final powers, the original area becomes infected. Stronger infected versions of enemies begin spawning, and this pushes the narrative along by showing the danger of the infection, as well as mixing up the monotony of the starting area as you do spend a lot of time there. Although it's not a perfect system and never truly alleviates the redundancies of backtracking that are inherent in maze-like games, it's likely the best approach. Hollow Knight's world does a lot of great things with very little. If you listen closely enough, most music pieces in Hollow Knight are, of course, beautiful, but also simple arrangements of strings, violins, keys, and at times, harmonics. But the composition is anything but simple. Any musician will understand the use of overlapping minor and major melodies in Hollow Knight's music, which creates this sort of hot and cold experience of charming yet chilling, sad yet playful. You'll find very little pretentiousness to the score of Hollow Knight as it represents the simple nature of its presentation and aesthetics. Hollow Knight's HUD is also quite simple and minimalist, as is the use of light. Unlike in many games that use excessive or artificial light, many light sources in Hollow Knight are quite natural and used sparingly. The fuzzy, soft bloom effects used here in the Deep Nest or the simple luminance from your character really provide all the light you need and accentuate the contrast between light and dark. And finally, of course, Hollow Knight's minimalist art book style ending without words is the perfect way to conclude in the most unassuming way possible. Simple games can't hide from anything. Every element must shine because there are so few. I believe Hollow Knight to be the game that personifies this ideal. Of course, it's not a perfect game. Some of the maps are overly convoluted for little reason, so backtracking does become a real issue end of game for completionists. Many other players may be turned off by the lack of travel points and the enormous size of the map. And others may lament the lack of flexibility in the charm system, saying that most of the utility charms have little to no use when compared to their stronger counterparts. But overall, Hollow Knight is a wonderful game that takes the word simple to heart. Drop a comment down below, guys, and let me know what your experiences were with Hollow Knight. I'd love to hear about it. And thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, by all means, hit the thumbs up button for me. It really helps. And subscribe here for more of our future content. You guys have a kick-ass day. We'll see you in our next video.